Hi everyone, my name's Heather Rudnick and I'm a registered dietitian with Lakeland Health. Today we're going to be cooking a recipe that I like to call pizza on a chip, using the often underappreciated eggplant. So the first thing you need to do with your eggplant is to cut off the top, because you can't really eat that green part right there. Okay, flip it around and cut off the bottom as well. Next, what you need to do is to cut the eggplant into slices. I like to make mine about a half an inch to an inch thick. Just keep going. Okay, so now that we've got our eggplant into slices, what we need to do now is to cut it into cubes. So all you need to do is first cut it into strips like so. Then just flip it around, even them up, and then cut them again. Okay. So now that we've diced up our eggplant, it's time to actually salt it, also called purging. So what we do is we take our eggplant, put it in a strainer with a bowl underneath it. Very important to have that bowl under there. And then what we do is we add salt. So don't worry too much about this salt increasing the sodium content of the eggplant, because once this is set for about 30 minutes, what the salt would have done would be to have drawn out a lot of those bitter juices that a lot of times people associate with eggplant. So if you've had eggplant in the past and it's been bitter, you might not have salted it first. So we let it sit for about 30 minutes, draw all those bitter juices out, and then the juices will collect in the bottom. So that's why we have the bowl there. So now that the eggplant's been sitting for about 20 to 30 minutes, the salt has done its job. It has drawn out a lot of that water and bitter juices that are located inside the eggplant. So now that it's been sitting for a while, what we can do is squeeze whatever remaining water is in there out. So you just take a few handfuls of eggplant and you just start squeezing. And you can see that there is still a lot of water in there. So just make sure that you get all of the eggplant at least once, just to get that extra water out of there. And this step is important because what you're doing by getting that extra water out of there is getting the remaining bitterness out, and you're also creating a more firm texture, which is important because what this water does is prevent the eggplant from absorbing the cooking liquid that you'll be cooking with shortly. And that you want to be able to have the eggplant absorb that flavor. And as we're squeezing out this extra water, the firmer texture will be similar to a more meaty texture. So this eggplant will work really well as a meat substitute. Okay, so I've squeezed out most of the water from the eggplant, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. Got a lot of water in that one little eggplant. So that's the stuff that we just squeezed out of there. Okay, so now that I've squeezed all the extra water off, you may remember that I put a lot of salt on here to draw all that water out. What I'm going to do now is rinse it off. And then what I'm going to do is pat dry it afterwards. So what I have here is a pan with a little bit of canola oil over medium heat. And I can see now that it's ready for the eggplant. So what I'll do is just add the eggplant. And cook it until the outsides are a little brown. This just adds a nice color and a little bit of flavor to the eggplant. This should only take about 5 minutes. So now that the pieces of eggplant have a nice brown color on the outside and are partially cooked, it's time to add my favorite tomato ingredient again. And this is the diced tomatoes with the basil, oregano, and garlic already in there. So you don't have to use any additional spices, they're all ready to go. You just add that in there. Give it a stir and bring it up to a boil. So once the eggplant is at a boil, stir it occasionally. And after about 15 minutes, all this extra water will be evaporated and you will be ready for the next step. So because this recipe is called pizza on a chip, what I'm going to do is first lay down the chip portion, which in this case is actually going to be some whole wheat crackers. Now if you don't have any whole wheat crackers, you can also use toast very easily for this portion. Next, we're going to add the cooked eggplant to the plate. And then what we're going to do is add a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Because I don't know about you guys, but the only pizzas I've ever had have had cheese on them. So this recipe would taste really great on top of pasta, or you could even serve it on the side with a nice great big salad.